What if the very thing your enemies fear the most isn't your silence, but the moment you finally rise? Chosen one, think about it. For years, people might have looked at you and thought they had you figured out. Maybe they smiled politely. Maybe they whispered behind your back. Maybe they even dismissed you as just average. But deep down, you've always felt it. That quiet fire burning in your chest, waiting for its moment. Not tomorrow, not someday, tonight. Because the truth is, the scariest version of you is not the one who hides, not the one who waits. It's the one who finally steps into the light and refuses to shrink back. So let me ask you, are you ready to see what happens when that fire inside you can no longer be denied? The moment you become the fire. Chosen one. The scariest moment for those who doubted you isn't when you stay quiet. It's when you finally ignite. And let me tell you this, you might not even notice the exact second it happens. One day, you're just doing what you always do, living life, pushing through struggles, wondering if anyone really sees you. And then suddenly, there's a shift, a spark inside you that doesn't go out this time. It catches, it grows, and it becomes undeniable. Think of a candle. A candle can be blown out with the smallest breath of air. That's how most people live. Delicate, fragile, easily shaken. But when you become fire, when you ignite, you're no longer at the mercy of the wind. Instead, you consume the room. You change the atmosphere. Nobody can ignore it. Let me give you a real-world picture. I once knew a man who worked at the same company for years. He was overlooked, passed by for promotions, even laughed at when he suggested new ideas. People thought they had him figured out. Just another ordinary employee, nothing special. But then one day, he took a chance on himself. He launched his own small business on the side. It wasn't flashy at first. In fact, some people mocked him for trying. But a year later, that same business landed him a contract bigger than his old company's entire yearly revenue. Suddenly, the same people who doubted him were calling, asking for advice, even hoping for a chance to work with him. He didn't have to shout, "Look at me." His fire spoke for itself. You see, most people live their whole lives like candles, burning quietly, fragile, waiting for someone else to give permission to shine. But you, chosen one, are different. You're not meant to flicker. You're meant to blaze. Now, let's talk about mistakes, because many chosen ones stumble right here. One mistake is trying to prove yourself too soon, talking louder than you act, posting more than you produce. That only makes people doubt you more. Another mistake is shrinking back from your own light. You start to feel it. You know you're capable of more, but you hold yourself small because you're worried about how uncomfortable it might make others. But here's the truth. Your light isn't meant to make everyone comfortable. It's meant to show the way. When you ignite, some people will leave, yes. Some will gossip, yes. But others, the right ones, will be drawn to your flame. They'll feel warmer because you dared to burn brighter. The lesson is simple. Real power doesn't come from shouting, "I'm ready." Real power comes when you stop talking about your potential and you simply become it. Ignition is that moment when you don't just dream anymore. You step into the dream, fully alive, fully burning. And once it happens, there's no going back. You'll never fit into the small box others tried to keep you in. You'll never again apologize for being too much, because the fire inside you has become the evidence outside you. So take a breath. Feel this truth in your chest. You are not a candle. You are the fire. And when you ignite, the whole room changes. But ignition is just the beginning. Fire is powerful, yes, but fire without proof is just smoke. In the next part, we'll talk about what truly terrifies your enemies even more than your light. Not your words, not your spark, but the undeniable evidence you carry. The evidence that can't be denied. Chosen one, they don't fear your words. They fear the evidence. They fear the moment you stop talking about change and you become the living proof of it. Think about a chessboard. For most of the game, pawns are ignored. They're seen as disposable, easy to push aside. But when one pawn makes it all the way across the board, everything shifts. That pawn transforms into a queen, the most powerful piece on the table. Suddenly, the whole game is different, and nobody saw it coming until it was too late. That's what happens when you become evidence. People may have overlooked you for years. They may have doubted you, mocked you, or placed you in the smallest box. But when you break through and stand on the other side, changed, unshakable, undeniable, the game is over. They can't play the same way anymore because you're no longer who you were. Let me ground this in real life. I knew of a single mother who was treated like a burden by her own family. She was written off as someone who would never make it, someone who would always need help. But she refused to give up. For 5 years, she quietly built a small business from her kitchen table. Day after day, while people whispered behind her back, she kept going. And then, one day, that business became stable, profitable, and powerful enough to support not only her, but also provide jobs for others. Suddenly, the same relatives who once pitied her now stood in awe. She didn't need to argue with them. Her life had become the evidence. Or think of the man who was once the outsider in his circle of friends. They ignored his calls, left him out of gatherings, made him feel like he didn't matter. But instead of fighting for their approval, he invested in himself. Years later, he became the one they all turned to for advice, the one they introduced proudly as my friend. He didn't have to say a word. His presence alone was proof. Here's where many chosen ones go wrong. Some try to prove themselves too early, throwing words around without the evidence to back them up. To others, that looks like boasting, or worse, like pretending. On the other hand, some hide their victories because they're afraid of making others uncomfortable. They shrink back, dim their own light, and keep their success hidden. Both mistakes rob you of the power of evidence. The lesson here is simple. Truth is louder than words. Evidence speaks for itself. When you are the proof, you don't need to persuade anyone. You don't need to argue. Your life, your results, your transformation become a mirror that others cannot avoid. This is what I call quiet inevitability. They may pretend not to see you. They may scroll past your wins. They may even whisper excuses for why you've risen. But deep down, in places they'll never admit out loud, their hearts tremble because they know what you've become cannot be denied. So take this in. Your job isn't to convince anyone. Your job is to live in such a way that your existence itself becomes the proof. That's the evidence that silences every doubt and dismantles every lie. And chosen one, when you hold both the fire and the proof, you no longer just inspire. You shift entire rooms, entire families, entire communities. You become the living answer to the very questions they hoped you'd never solve. Now, if you feel this truth rising inside you, mark this moment. Don't let it slip away. Type 777 in the comments, not as a number, but as your declaration. Tonight, I claim it. Because from here on, the fire and the proof walk with you. Chosen one, pause with me for just a moment. Close your eyes if you can. Feel the weight of everything we've just shared, the fire inside you, the evidence that cannot be denied. This isn't just another video. This is a turning point. Because tonight is not about information. Tonight is about transformation. And when you declare it, when you mark it, something shifts in the unseen. So here is your moment of action. If these words resonate in your spirit, don't let it fade into the background of your day. Claim it. Seal it. Type 777 in the comments. Not just as a number, but as your personal declaration. Tonight, I claim it. When you do, you're not typing for me. You're writing it for yourself. You're telling the universe, I am ready. I am undeniable. I am the proof. Chosen one, this is your moment. Mark it, declare it, and step fully into who you were always meant to be.